looking for the live. As soon as I see it.
All right.
As soon as it says live in the corner of the screen, it means we're live.
It means we're live.
Oh, we are live. Look at that. Hi, guys. I don't think it would be right if we didn't start every live like that. It just wouldn't be home. Welcome. This is CLCI. We are live today. Today we have a special guest, John Weiman, right? Did I pronounce that correctly? Yes. We're going to let Jerome introduce him. And so I'm going to turn this over to Jerome right now, and then I'll be back in a second.
Right. Let me go ahead and adjust the view really quickly. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our newly timed Tuesday Lives at 4 today. Hopefully we can catch some more of you guys. It's kind of the whole objective of switching the time later in the evening for you guys all. So we are today being joined by CLCI alumni John Weiman. I do believe Lisa was your teacher, correct, John?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So with that being said, I don't want to go ahead and give his own autobiography, but John, if you have a second, go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then we should be able to get started as soon as you're done.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm ashamed to say, well, I'm kind of old and kind of young. I have a transplant survivor, but that was I'm a 30-year-old actually in some ways, but years ago, like when Washington was president, I was alive, and I worked in the psychiatric field with Dr. James Masterson, who worked with borderline personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder. I was with him for about 9 years. I learned a lot. And I was going to graduate school, but I've said this to every one of my clients. Everyone has a dream, everyone has a story. And if you mess with either one of them, you end up talking to people like us. Basically my dream was to be in this field in some way. And I had to leave the field to have children and all that and provide. Again, it was my dream. And I essentially, I will say in my first marriage, I lied every single day of my marriage. I always said what I think my wife wanted to hear instead of what was my truth. So after a while, and if I never eat lemon chicken again, I will be very happy because I used to say, oh, I love lemon chicken. I didn't like it. So anyway, sooner or later, it leads to divorce and that type of thing without connection. And during the time of divorce, my mother also had lymphoma, and my mother was also right behind me. She was the third Nike poster ever. That poster hangs in their lobby. So she was a therapist, and she always wanted me to go into this field, and my mom got lymphoma. She passed away, and a close friend I had got killed in a car crash. And this all happened in a very short period of time. And I went on a road where I ate too much, slept too much, and drank too much, and wound up when I couldn't walk like 100 yards, and it took me 45 minutes. I said, I better go to the hospital. And I went to the hospital, and I was in there for 4 hours. And they were less nice every time they came in and took more blood. And they finally sat me down, and they said, look, you keep doing what you're doing, you'll be dead in 2 months. And I said, okay. And I stopped immediately. I walked out of the hospital saying, if I can be half as strong as my mom, I'll be okay. I then started to get back on my feet. And took 2 years to get on the transplant list. To get on the transplant list, you're not sick and you get on. You actually have to convince 12 doctors that you're going to live. Failed transplants cost money. I waited for 14 years. Ironically, 14 people I knew that had what I had, they've all died. I was the only one alive. I was also the only person, I'm proud to say in some ways, in Kaiser Permanente Mid-Atlantic history to be taken off the transplant list because I was healthy for so long. It's ironic that after I got taken off, 3 months later, my liver went into failure, and I had 5 surgeries in a month. And I got my transplant June 1st. I was out of the hospital, I believe June 10th, and I was working June 11th, coaching couples.
Wow.
And that's because of Lisa. When I think of Lisa, I smile. Lisa and the class. Lisa, you'll be glad to know, happy to know that several of us still stay in touch. I think we had the most special class, but I'm a little biased. I'm sure they all say that. But I wanted to, after my marriage failed, I kind of wanted to go into this field and looked at relationships and what I do. That's and Lisa, I don't know if I ever told you this. I don't follow the typical 50-minute model. I charge per session, not per hour. And it ends at a point where it's in a good place. Some sessions, typically, the first sessions usually last about 3 hours. If you want to set the record, it's 5 hours and 14 minutes. I don't care. I want them to be better than they started. And that's whatever that means. So learning from also Dr. John and Julie Gottman, who Lisa turned me on to, took their training and put the two together, and I'm here. And I get a lot of my leads on this app. I don't know if you're familiar with it, called Thumbtack. They get about 20,000 requests a month, the last I heard.
You are number one, right? On
Yes,
I mean, numero uno.
Yeah, number one in the country because of Lisa. Yeah, and none of the reviews, I think there's right now 163 5-star reviews. None of them have been solicited.
That's what I wanted to ask you. I mean, how does one person get 163 5-star reviews? It just came organically and naturally?
Honestly, I can't answer that question. I think it's I use a different model, and I guess what I do also that's different is they have open access during the week. So if they need to vent or ask a question, if they text me or call me, I take it. The only time I don't take calls is if I'm in session. And so this is their life, and I take that very seriously. I once had, as a couple, I'll never forget them, a clinical psychologist and a psychoanalyst.
Oh man.
I smiling. And the woman said to me, "John, you don't change lives, you change generations." And that really hit me hard, and it was an ultimate compliment. But we deal with people who are kind enough to trust us with their life. And I'm sure you all know there's a lot of people in the field that just mail it in and just, okay, all right, see you next week, and don't bother me. All right, I'm busy. So
we love what we do. We love what we do.
That's it.
And there's no thought otherwise. Definitely.
I couldn't agree with you more. I don't work, Lisa. I don't work. I don't even know if I have a job. I look forward to every day. And I got my first call today, I think at 7:05 this morning. I'll be working probably till 11. And I'm probably, and I guess this is Lisa and I talking, she'll know what I'm talking about. I'm probably the poster child for divorce because of my hours. My hours are crazy. But my wife and I have rituals of connection. And I tell my couples this about, now you're going to make fun of me, all three of you. my wife and I have yogurt time. Every night we share a yogurt and just talk about anything. And so it's yogurt time's a great time. But it's it's mysteriously one time I worked till about 12:30, 2 nights in a row, and we were fighting more. I wonder why. Because we weren't connected, and we, yogurt time is important. So, but Lisa is thinking of John and Julie Gottman. I'm not sure when I mentioned that. So, but fire away, Brooke. Go ahead.
Oh no, I will. Okay, first and foremost, when did you attended CLCI, so when was that? How long ago was that? I'm just curious.
5-6 years ago.
5-6 years ago. Wow. And you have, I mean, I'm just impressed right now. I mean, it's just impressive because that's 5 years and you've got that many 5-star reviews. You have impacted that many lives and you've done this much work and you had a liver transplant. I mean, that's, you were superhuman. What is the most common thing that couples come into you and ask the first time they walk through that door?
How do we get past infidelity? That's the most common question.
How to get past being jealous, basically?
Oh, infidelity.
Infidelity. Oh, okay. So how do you get past infidelity?
A lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of work. A lot of, all trust is broken. And, and Brooke, I don't know you, but I know that Lisa knows Esther Perel. And, in some ways, the marriage was broken in some way, but the person never said how. So one of the goals we have is to figure out how it was broken and how do they reconnect and establish trust. Trust is, I can tell you in terms of infidelity, one of the things is this device right here is a bad device, but it's also can be a good device. I mean, does the person have open access to texting? Do they are they able to look at their phone at any time? People that make it work will also agree to have a tracker put on their car because they don't want the spouse to know everything that can happen, and how they deal with triggers. Triggers happen. I mean, I have a couple I just talked to, saw them 5 years ago. They're still triggered. The wife's still triggered, and the man is, it's like he accepts that it's going to happen, and he is empathetic and understanding. Infidelity is tough.
Or disagree, John, that it's kind of like when you're working with that couple who have infidelity, that you're kind of working two issues going on, like the relationship and what it means to rekindle. And it's not really rebuild, because at this point the relationship's fallen. It's it's start a new fresh relationship, right?
Yes.
But we have the feelings of the infidelity and the lack of trust that you're also working with, and to work with those at the same time, it takes time.
Takes a long time. And I had someone come in January, and I said, I'm just telling you, you will be very lucky if by July or August things are a little better. And he said, July or August? I thought it'd be like by the end of the month. And I was like, no, this is going to be a long time. So
looking at years, it's closer to years of working at it and making it. Really, it's something you work at every day, right?
Yes, exactly. So, connection is a big issue. Conflict, obviously, that word, which I don't know what it means. Communication. I wish I knew what the word communication meant, because everyone has a different meaning for it. You know, so when people say, yeah, we have communication problems, I don't know what they are.
How do you get couples to speak the same language? How do you, I mean,
you coach them.
Beautiful answer.
One of the things I noticed about John back in the day when he took the class, he basically started hitting that ground running soon afterwards. He didn't stop and go, I don't know if I'm going to do this or not. He said, I'm going to do this, and look at where he is today. He hit that ground running. 5 years later, 6 years later, whatever this is, he is the #1 sought after coach in his area for couples work. How do you think, when you talk to the students that we have listening right now, how do you think you did that? Or what would your advice be? Or, give them your wisdom and how you made this happen. Because they're all afraid. They're all afraid to not be successful.
Well, I will never forget the first couple I saw. I was pacing in my office, and it was a police officer and his wife, and it was actually a case of infidelity. And I'm pacing back and forth going, are these people crazy? They're coming to see me. And I was like, okay. And I thought of everything you taught me, Lisa, and everything Gottman. And I decided day one, I wasn't going to use a clock. And I will tell you, and I've never said this before, so I will tell you that I started charging $40 per session. First session went 3.5 hours. But I loved it, and they loved it, and they both started to smile at the end, and they looked at each other. And another thing I do is give them homework. The homework I give them is I ask them each to ask the other one to do one thing this week. The only rules are, it's got to be concrete. It can't be, I want Lisa to be nicer to me. I'll give you the best one I ever had. The husband says they were married 19 years. I want my wife to make me lasagna. And his wife looked at him like, what? What are you talking about? And he said, 19 years they were married. When we first got married, you made it every week. It was my favorite meal. And then you stopped, and I never knew why. So his wife started crying and said, of course I'll make you lasagna. As far as, the other students, I think, Lisa, you and I share the passion for doing what we do. And to have that passion, you really have to look at yourself in the mirror and see if you have it. And then go for it. And I will say one thing, and I'm sure you're a Brene Brown fan. And here I am in my sweatshirt and t-shirt. And I have some top doctors from Hopkins come in. And here I am. And I used to wear the, suit or the button-down shirt and jacket, and that's never been me. I am who I am. And if I'm going to ask my couples to be authentic and be honest, well, then I should be. This is me. And
so
I would say definitely be yourself, because if you're trying to, go ahead, Lisa.
Go for it. Be yourself.
and
What else?
passion.
Passion.
And don't give up.
And don't give up.
Don't give up. If this is, like, as I said, everyone has a story, everyone has a dream. Go for your dream. If this is your dream, go for it. Do it. Don't let anything stop you. I mean, I have a lot of therapists that come to me. And, at first we were told that, oh, you can't know this field, and there's this whole thing about it. And you know what? If you're good at what you do and you like what you do, that's all people care about. That's it. So if you took the training, then you know what you're doing. Do it.
Get yourself out there, get yourself in front of people, and get it done.
And be authentic. Be you, because that's what people care about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
and know your trade. It's also we have a passion, but we know our trade. We keep learning and growing and continue that learning and growing so that we can become better and better at our jobs too, or work, or passion, or whatever.
Yeah. It's this is their life, and you know what? They're nice enough to share their lives with you.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that you have such a great opportunity there, so go for it. And just go for it. I can't say it other than that. And think about what you've learned. Lisa, one day you and I have to talk about Jordan Peterson. I've read a lot about him lately. Very controversial, but has some good things. He said the other day, I listened, you see what you aim at. Be careful what you aim at. And I was like, that's pretty good. So, Brooke, what do you have?
Well, I wanted to say that I love the idea of, not the idea, the truth of being humble enough to know that your clients are giving you a gift by trusting you. And more than that, they're trusting their lives and their relationship and in your hands in many ways. And so that's something to treat with, deference and respect. And I really like that you brought that up. I mean, I think it's very powerful. And then so when you were starting out, what is the one thing that you wish somebody had told you?
Actually, my mom did. My mom told me something and I learned from it. And this is going to sound very hard, but it's so true. As soon as they walk out the door, you have to leave it at the door, because these stories that people are telling you are powerful, are really powerful. And there's work time, and then there's time for yourself and your family. And a lot of people will tend to, when I worked inpatient, I only took work home one day. And when I say inpatient, it was long-term psychiatric environment where 18 months you were there. So there were some tough stories, and I've heard tough stories here. And if I thought about them, they'd emotionally cripple me. I have to set a boundary. That's one thing. And I would also, be somewhat transparent if you have to be. If someone needs to be transparent, be transparent.
Can I ask how you set your boundary? Oh, sorry. Lisa, go ahead.
When you speak about transparency, and I can see you're thinking about something. What are you thinking about when you say that?
Well, it's a fairly common problem that I see, is that drinking becomes involved, and alcohol is an issue. And I will tell them very honestly, you don't want to be me. I mean, Lisa, I don't know if you know this. I mean, I had 4,000 pounds of fluid drained from my body, a stroke where I was on life support for 5 days,
Wow.
seizures where I flatlined twice.
Wow.
One seizure was in November of 2019, 14 years after I stopped drinking. And the seizure was called encephalopathic. So it was because of the alcohol. So sometimes I'll share something like that.
Wow.
When you let me interrupt you again. When you think of that disclosure, who are you doing that for? The client? Is it I'm going to stay there, or for your? Who are you doing it for?
I would say the client, because I don't want anyone to go through what I have.
So when you do it for the client, how long do you share that about me moment?
As long as I just did.
So it's a quick sharing that you understand where they're coming from. This is not you giving your whole life story in that moment. It's a quick interaction for the benefit of the client to understand something, not for them to get you.
No, exactly. Yeah. So it's
Okay, got it.
I wanted to ask how so one of the things you'd mentioned is setting boundaries, knowing what your mother said, which is, as soon as they walk out the door, you have to leave it at the door. How do you do that? Because it's easier said than done, right? I mean, I would imagine.
Best words in this field, my son said when he was 4 years old, he couldn't tie his shoe and he handed it to my mother and said, "Here, easy for you, hard for me." It's because it's been practiced so long, because I've done it for so long, it is fairly easy for me. It would be hard, I imagine, to start off. The emotional muscle memory to develop that is, sometimes I'll go, this may finish and I may get a call in 5 minutes after this. So there's got to be I got to leave that, it's next person, next thing. So it's you have to, you just have to do it. It's, I don't know another way. I'm probably not answering it very well. I don't know another way. I wish I did. I'd try it. I may call Lisa after this and ask her.
Keep looking forward. You just keep making, keep moving forward, right? Keep moving forward. Leave it there, right?
Well, he's not taking ownership of what his clients are going through, and that's the difference.
Yes.
He has learned through time, as John has shared, that it's the client's responsibility. You have to let them go home and do what they're going to do. Your responsibility is when you're there in front of them to do your job, to do your business with them in that interaction. Once they leave, that's their business. It's to know what you're in control of. That question, what are you in control of? I'm in control of myself, not the other person. And I think without John saying those kinds of words, he said that.
Yes.
So when you were, go ahead, sorry.
That's why Lisa was my teacher.
Yeah. When you were starting out, where did you find your clients? Where did you even find that first couple?
I actually found them on a website. I like put my name on, joined a bunch of them. And all of a sudden I got a phone call. Thumbtack, Thurvo, some others. Those two come to mind. Yelp, put information on Yelp, Facebook. Although I have not had a lot of luck with social media. I wish I knew it better. Lisa, I have 1,700 posts on my Instagram account, only 400 followers. And I've never gotten a couple call me because I had an Instagram account. So
yeah, that's what I found too, that advertising on regular places where people go, like you said, Yelp. I never liked Thumbtack. I didn't, that was not my thing, but Google primarily was it. And it's to find where your people are. And that's what you're
yes,
doing,
yeah,
what you did. You found your people, especially right now through the Thumbtack. It works really well for you. It's so part of this learning in the beginning, what you're talking about, is learning where your people are going to come from. And by experimenting and getting out there on the Yelps, the Facebooks, the Thumbtacks, the TikToks, the Instagrams,
yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I when I talk to a lot of people, they all go about it a different way.
Mhm.
I have a health and wellness coach that does a lot on Facebook and Instagram. Does a lot of work, and I'm like, what is your secret? I don't know, but
Secret sauce. Yeah.
yeah, but I also actually now more than that. I mean, because I've been doing it, it's referrals. I get a
Yeah.
lot of referrals.
Mhm.
So I also have I've gone to attorneys. I reached out to attorneys that
Oh,
that will, it's like if you have a couple, if you have someone comes to you and they're kind of on the fence, and
very smart.
I probably have about 10 attorneys in town that will refer me,
Brilliant.
say, hey,
Brilliant.
before you go through it, try this. So
Um, when you were so before you went to CLCI, how did you figure out you wanted to do couples coaching? Like, what brought you even into the land of couples coaching to begin with?
I failed in my marriage. First marriage, I failed. Um, yeah, I didn't I didn't communicate like I should have. And I wanted to get a better understanding of how that, how this all works. One thing, I guess, to go deep, we we all grow up with a Netflix version of what a marriage and relationship is supposed to look like. Um, and I grew up with a version that the man didn't communicate. My father didn't communicate. So I didn't know how to do that. So as I started to look at my own failures and then look at my history, and look at my family, my brothers and sisters, uh, there's a lot of that, a lot of traces of that stuff. And so I wanted to see what makes it work. And, rituals of connection, for example, is one, turning towards bids for connection, um, love maps, those things, responding non-defensively, the four horsemen, all right. So, the criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling, which I'm
Mhm.
ashamed or proud to say I stonewall. I do it. 85% of men do, where we just shut down. It's not to say women don't do it; they do as well. So, um, yeah. So that's how I got into it. And my mom once said to me, John, you see people. And I never knew what she meant by that. And my mom again was my hero. And one of the things, I came from an Ivy League family. I was not Ivy League. I was nowhere close. I went to New York University, and my brother, the Princeton graduate, and scholar and all that, he met one of my couples once. He was staying here, and probably the nicest thing ever said to me in my life was, John, if mom were alive today, my brother said this, if mom were alive today, she'd be prouder of you than any of us. And that was a good, that was a nice moment. And I really appreciate my brother for saying that. So, yeah, that's what made me get into it though. My mom wasn't in the best marriage. I thought she was incredible. She was my hero, but the marriage wasn't good. So that's why I wanted to figure out what makes it good.
I think there's a lot of truth in what you're saying about how we get into the businesses of coaching, whatever that passion is because that's what we want to learn and what we took ourselves through. I think there's many coaches out there that would attest to that similar concept, and that's kind of a good place to grow from. That knowledge that you're gaining can help not only in the business you're doing, but your own self growth that continues in this process.
I had to share with you, I had a dear friend of mine that was working with me, is working a little bit with me, and my wife took a walk, and my wife and her were talking about, my wife was saying something like, "Oh, John and I had a little fight about this or whatever." And the woman stopped and said, "Wait, what? John fights?" And my wife was like, "Yeah, we fight. We do." Just like everyone else, we fight. So it's just learning about, what makes it work. So,
Jerome, I think Jerome has a question. Yeah.
So you spoke about how you kind of changed the model as far as your sessions are concerned. You didn't really use a clock. I'm interested just as where you stand now, and it sounds like you have a really busy schedule. I mean, waking up 7, going all the way to 11. Is that model still sustainable for you throughout the day? And also, I mean, just to fill in some more, how many clients do you normally interact with on a regular basis?
Interact with or have sessions?
Sessions.
I may have 2, maybe 3 a day.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, so you interact with a lot of your clients outside of that, because I know you mentioned via text, call. If they go ahead and do that, you kind of step out of that coaching space and into that being there for them space, which is interesting. So with that being said, is that still a sustainable model? That's still something that you kind of work with, the off the clock method?
It's the only method I know. I mean, and Lisa brought up a good point about them being answering to themselves. And what a lot of clients will do when they're texting me, they'll text me something that they're doing. Like, "John, I said in the session I was doing this. I know you're going to hold me accountable in the session. So I'm just reporting to you. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this." Now, frankly, the fact that they send me the text, well, it's a sign of good faith, but it really matters when the 3 of us talk. Because I've seen couples, they'll come in on Monday and I'll say, "How was your weekend?" And one of them will say, "It was great. It was wonderful." And the other one's going, so it's why I appreciate, those getting those text messages and everything is, are they actually doing it? And, and in the world of COVID, it's very hard for, I ask couples to face each other. Don't look at me, look at each other, and you'll see all the reactions that you need to see. But it's funny when they first start out facing me, one person's talking, but I'm actually looking at the other person for their reaction. And the reactions are very interesting. I'll put it politely. So go ahead, Jerome.
Interested in that space too. You do couples coaching. Is that, are you open to, because I'm just curious, I'm not sure exactly how it works all the time. Are you open to coaching individually, or is it always a 2-person session?
No, I do a fair amount of individuals. Usually Well, I'd say about 50% of them is when the marriage didn't work and one of them will stay. Or I'll have someone from that I worked with, a couple that I worked with, and someone maybe having a hard time and wanting to, get directed, goal directed, give them goals. And I'd probably say 25% of my business is practices individuals.
What do you do? So when you have a couple that's just not progressing, right? That they're, not doing the work, or they're not, how do you manage that situation? Because it's probably frustrating.
Well, I'm gonna make a pretty bold statement, but I believe in what my experience has shown, and this is gonna sound crazy, and every one of you is gonna say there's no way that can happen. My model is that we should meet once a week for a month, 4 sessions. If they are doing the work, things should be substantially better. You're talking, 10 to 12, well, it could be more hours. It's a lot of work in a month. And by the end of the month, for example, they are clear. I had one that struggled a little bit. This was 5 weeks. And on the 5th week, they realized they had bids for connection down pat. They knew exactly what they were. The only problem is they knew their own. They couldn't recognize their partners. So it was breeding a lot of resentment. And so once they kind of caught on that, hey, we have to recognize the other person's. Yeah, that's the whole point. Then it got better. And now we're at once a month. So I cut down the frequency. But if you tell a couple that's having problems that within a month things should be good, not good, but much better. I say
improved, yeah.
That they say you're crazy, and yet that happens. Now the ones that don't tend to drop out on their own, and one of the key indicators is the homework. If they both do the homework, because I'm very specific, don't say I'll try. It's either I'll do it or I won't. If you can't if I asked, if Lisa and I were married, and I said, I want Lisa to change the oil in my car, which by the way was a request. The wife did it, by the way. Lisa would say, no, I can't do that. Then I would have to say, okay, I want Lisa to take a walk with me 3 nights this week. And Lisa would say, okay, yes, I can do that. Do they do this simple request? Couples who do the requests tend to do much better than the couples who don't. Or if one of them does it and the other one doesn't, they struggle a little bit. And it's a telling sign in the beginning, but
so I have a couple.
Help them.
I have a couple questions from people watching.
Yes.
Sue was wondering if you take the trauma approach to infidelity.
Yeah, there's a lot of trauma in infidelity. It's it completely destroys, in my opinion, at least, the victim's identity. Why wasn't I good enough? How long has this been going on? Why didn't he tell me, or she tell me, or where do I go from here? Or who do I tell? What about the kids? There's a million things. How many people in the neighborhood knew this and I didn't?
Well, and how did I miss it, and how do I not miss it again?
Yes. Oh, yeah. How did I not see it?
And I don't want to miss it again if I go down this path where we reconnect. Yeah.
One of the difficult things with infidelity is, and Esther Perel said it very well, it's in the darkness of our own minds, the person, the betrayer, while they may feel bad for hurting their partner, they don't feel bad for the experience because the experience gave them something that they were missing. And determine what it is. So it comes down to what it meant for that person, even if it wasn't real. Because it wasn't real. I mean, if you're having an affair and you think it's real, go to the grocery store when I want canned vegetables and Lisa wants fresh vegetables. We'll see how we come to agreement on that. That's a real world. So affairs don't have that. But it also, to the victim, it completely shatters their identity. So it's what it meant to them and what it did to me. And we have to talk about those things.
And something else I want to identify that you're just even doing in this conversation, the use of similes and metaphors, and how I imagine that you bring that into coaching as well.
I will share with you the metaphor I use all too often. I'm going to put Jerome and Brooke. Jerome's the bad guy, all right? So, Jerome, you want your marriage? Yes, I want my marriage. Well, right now, you're asking your wife to jump in the pool with you. And your wife is saying, there's no way I'm jumping in that pool. No way. When I jumped in that pool, I trusted you and I drowned. So, Jerome, what do we have to do to get your wife to put her foot in the water? Not go swimming with you. Let's just start by getting her to put her foot in the water. What do you think needs to be done?
I trust you.
If you get her foot in the water, we maybe have to get her swimming, but that's going to be on your work.
And baby steps, it sounds like, right? I mean, just taking the little steps and not trying to, throw her in the deep end right off.
Get over it. It's not going to work. Get over it. Come on. No, it's building trust and, doing what you say. I'll tell you that I had a couple that homework. The wife wanted to take a walk and the guy never did. And when they split up, the words the husband said was, I wish I had taken that walk with you. That was 8 months later. Never talked about it until the door was closing.
So the other thing that I'm noticing also, you are not attached to them staying together, right? Your work is about doing your best in the session. And whether they decide to stay together, whether they decide to separate, whether they decide to break up, get back together, you are, again, still being you and not taking it home, not doing anything different even in your sessions other than doing your best for what they're there for.
And I didn't say it very clearly. I said about the end of a session, I said I want it to end better than it began, and that's whether that's for each of them or both of them. That's up to them.
Yeah.
One of them may get a clear view, like this could work, or maybe this isn't going to work. But they'll come to some point, and it may take a couple sessions, but that's really up to them.
We have about a minute left, but and I want to get final thoughts. Before I do, Lisa, I have a question. One more question. This one's kind of for you. Isn't assigning homework violating the coaching approach?
So we are not doing homework as per se in the sense, fill out this form. What you're talking about is a hybrid of an expert who's working on a relationship. And a lot of the times they'll come up with that, I wish we would have done this, or we could do that. When the client drops that information, then we can grab on it and help them find out what it is, the follow-up. What are they going to do in between? What are they taking from today's session, and what are they going to follow up with when they leave here?
So it's goal setting, really, in many ways. So it's what coaches do. So it's just a different word for goal setting, pretty much, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
yes, a lot of couples ask for homework.
Mm-hmm.
That a lot of them will say, do we have any homework? And I only give it the first session. That's it.
Oh, just the first. Okay.
Yeah, just the first one.
Okay, well, final thoughts. So, last words. You, John, you're speaking to coaches. You're speaking to people who want to be you one day. One day they want to be the top, coach that people go to for relationships or whatever their niche is. Anything you want to say to them out there as final thoughts?
You're not alone. First of all, I guess you can call me as a colleague. If you want to call me, call me. I'd love to hear from you. I know it's scary, but I probably thought I was I'll say the stupidest in my class. And, and that's okay because they were wonderful students, but it's just about your passion and believe in yourself. And if you're scared and you need someone to call, then just call me. Yeah, you can do it. There's so many people out there. You are so much better than. So much better. There's so many coaches, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists that you're better than. You're better than. You just have to do it and love what you do and do what you love.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lisa.
Awesome to see you again.
Good to see you. I got some more people coming your way, by the way. All right. All right. We'll see you.
Hug.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on here.
COVID.
Elbow.